Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz at ClassicsToday.com. Do you recognize this tune? Yes, it's the Franck Violin Sonata. That's the finale. But when was the last time you actually heard it? I don't understand exactly what happens in the world of classical music because some pieces are popular and some pieces suddenly disappear. The Franck Sonata, for many, many years, at least when I was growing up, was the piece of French chamber music. I mean, that was the one to have if you were having only one. It was also just about the only major violin sonata after those of Beethoven, and maybe a couple by Brahms, that really belonged in every serious record collector's music collection. You just had to have the Franck Sonata. But no composer probably has a reputation that it's at lower ebb at this particular time than César Franck, which is a terrible, terrible shame because he's an absolutely magnificent composer. The Violin Sonata was a late work. It's like many of his pieces, it's in cyclical form, which is it has themes that recur throughout the various movements. It's formally original, and that finale, as you just heard, has one of the most beautiful melodies in the entire repertoire. And it's made all the more beautiful because of its sweetness, its simplicity, and the fact that it's played in canon between the violin and the piano. That is, they follow each other with an identical tune. And that sort of touch of formal poise makes it so touching and so beautiful. It's a magnificent work. It deserves to return to favor. Recordings seem to have dried up, but there were many, many, many great ones made over the past few decades because every violinist worth his or her salt recorded the Franck Sonata, usually in partnership with an equally great pianist. Now, I mean, I have several favorite recordings, but there's one in particular I want to bring to your attention. That's this one. The young Christian Zimmermann with Polish violinist Kaja Dansowska. It's an absolutely magnificent recording on Deutsche Grammophon, and it has the most interesting possible coupling, Karol Szymanowski's Myths. This is a piece for violin and piano that consists essentially of three tone poems. They're called The Fountain of Arethusa, and the second movement is Narcissus, and the last movement is Dryads and Pan. The music is quite different from Franck, and yet in some ways related to it, in that it's later in style, more French impressionist than Franck's sort of heavy-duty neo-Wagnerian German-influenced instrumental style. But it's very, very chromatic, as Franck was. In other words, the harmonies are often mysterious and sometimes surprisingly dissonant, but the textures, oh my goodness, the textures. Let me play you a little bit of the fountains. Let me see if I have this here, of the Fountains of Arethusa, an extraordinary piece. Yeah, listen. It's just great stuff. I mean, I know you'd rather be listening to that than staring at pictures of me. Somehow I'm going to figure out how to do these things in a more sophisticated fashion. But until then, and once again, if you haven't had much time for it, give the Franck Violin Sonata a listen. It's probably sitting in your collection, very well, very likely unheard for quite some time. And if you can dig up this recording on Deutsche Grammophon, with Zimmermann and Dansowska, you're in for a real treat. So thank you, and keep on listening.